Right. This morning I chaired a panel where we had legal experts, university professors. We were discussing e-procurement. We've been listening to technical and legal issues as well as about the future of e-procurement, and I've reached the conclusion that electronic procurement is a fact of something that is existing, that is available at our public administration, although it needs improvement to improve efficiency, transparency, etc. But e-procurement is necessary because it is mandatory, as stated, as established in European directive. So therefore, there is no other way for us than to bring together the necessary effort and then to give it the high level it deserves. But we can also see that part of the solutions and the problems come from legislation. So therefore, we thought that it was logically to have a representation of the political parties represented at the parliament, which I believe are working on this issue, to have them here with us so that they give us their perspectives, give us their view. I'm going to ask them 3 questions, but this doesn't mean anything because I was Member of Parliament at the Parliament in the mythic age, at the transition era here in Spain. And what happened to me was the following. Well, you still don't know because you are younger than me, but in politics you don't leave politics. Politics kicks you out, and I was kicked out from politics. And when I was no longer in politics, and I said, well, can I give a daily speech and get paid for it? And then I became a university lecturer interested in this theme. And, well, all teachers, first thing they do is to ask questions. So my question is, what can you do at the Parliament to help develop and drive these, well, e-procurement? What is your opinion about the convergence of public and private e-procurements, and what is left in terms of innovation, but from the legal viewpoints? I've also learned that at the Parliament, those who have the lower number of members are the first ones to intervene. And at my time, when I was at the Parliament, there was a political party who had the majority, and it was not only the last one to speak, but it also had voting rights. But this is not being the case today here. So in the first place, if I'm not mistaken, we'll give the floor first to Don Fernando Navarro. He's a member of Parliament at the Parliament of Ciudadanos political party at the Balearic Islands. So, Fernando, you have the floor. Thank you very much, because you are a politician. Well, I'm not a politician anymore. I was a politician. You know that you can ask the question that you want to ask us, and then we will give you the answer that we want to give. Well, you asked me about what is left in terms of innovation. I would like to give a more general approach. Well, I'm sure that we all agree that shift to e-procurement is mandatory and necessary. However, it is necessary but not sufficient. We have 2 issues in terms of public e-procurement, that they will not be fixed only by giving momentum to e-procurement. With this, I refer lack of competition, that is to say, lack of efficacy, and then also the waste of public resources, as well as corruption, as also lack of facility of law. Our law is an actual dinosaur. I will share with you an example, a real or current example, to express or to say that e-procurement is a syndrome. It is not a single cause, but it is a number of causes there. Corruption has generated significant fears, the contracting authorities, and there is reluctance hesitancy to sign things. So what happens in contracts with of public works? What happened with ADIF, the infrastructure manager? Well, they have decided to go for the lowest bid. They said, well, this is a criteria objective, and that's it. We will decide on the basis of price. Consequence of that, the companies that were undergoing significant crisis and there was surplus excess of capacity, they decided to drop or to dump prices. So that here we have the problem of the law, dinosaur law. So in Spain, the percentage of public works on the total of public works in Europe is very small. So therefore, there are gaps that the bidder can take advantage of. So therefore, the tenders became really reckless, and then lots of modifications were added to the bid. So this was a really lengthy process. So a problem of these characteristics forces the contracting authority to wait for a year or to launch a new invitation to tender. The problem that we have now at ADIF is that there are very many contracts that are stopped. So first problem that we have is lack of efficiency. And the second problem is that up until now, all the problems in terms of procurement and the legal makers have put up all the possible bureaucratic barriers so that no bid escapes. So this is an axiom. The more competent a market is, the lower the likeliness to have corruption and the more likeliness for that market to be efficient. So therefore, our star proposal is that governance systems should be changed. And there was a speech, this presentation in this about that. So we urgently need a monitoring or a monitoring body to check that there are no hidden niches to competition, information asymmetries. And for that, the portal that will have to manage all that information, to manage information coming from contracting authorities, is essential. So I encourage companies to focus on that. We will be needing investments on that big portal of for monitoring the big portal of procurement. So there perhaps may be problems of coordination between that big portal to be managed and then the information system of the contracting authorities. Indeed, that's a problem that we will have to resolve. And well, we are not going to discuss all the IT systems of the contracting authorities, but that portal of procurement will have to safeguard the operation and the performance of the market. So thank you very much. And one of our previous speakers, Francisco Blanco, told us his ideal story about the future. He didn't talk about a single portal, but a similar institution where everything would be regulated. We will take that idea on board for our debates. And now we move on to María Auxiliadora. She is the representative of Podemos political party, and she works in the area of anti-corruption, democratic regeneration, and public administration. I'm also a member of parliament. Yes, I am also a member of parliament at the commission.
Vale, pues perfecto. Vamos a ver. Por aterrizar un poco, porque no tenéis por qué saber aquí. Bueno, antes que nada,
well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me or us to this conference. Unfortunately, I could not follow all the presentation, listen to all the presentation, but it was just impossible for me to come here because today we were discussing budget. I would like to congratulate you because this is a conference where many aspects of public e-procurement has been touched upon. So, to give you a bit of a context context in terms of what we are doing at the legislative power. We are debating, we are processing a draft project to adapt the European directives. It was received at the Parliament in October. We had the amendment phase up until the first week of February. Oh no, it was not February, it was 2nd of March. And then we built the paper, so we have a paper about the procurement law. So we are working on our paperwork. It is a long law that does not it's not inviting to read it at night in bed. And we believe that we group had two major commitments. First of all, trying to reverse the evil effects of current procurement law, and second, strategic procurement as established the European directives to be transposed. That strategic procurement must be a modern procurement, and we believe that public e-procurement plays an essential role. Our group presented amendments to the law, and one of the main reasons in which we based our amendment was the lack of regulation in terms of public e-procurement. So to summarize, the questions that we thought that did not tackle that challenge holistically were the following. First of all, lack of a specific regulation. There are only 3 additional provisions, not making very many or introducing very many changes. These provisions are not coordinated and they are not fully integrated in the administrative procedure. So we thought that that was one of the first things that required rethinking. So we believe that that deep review of administrative procedures will help or will be translated into real e-procurement, where all the phases would be implemented digitally or electronically. So we thought that this is walking in the opposite direction set out by Europe. We have the communication by the European Commission, 26th of June, when they talked about an end-to-end e-procurement to modernize public administration. The actual directive makes it mandatory in October 2018 for all the tenders to be electronic. So other than what it says in the paragraph 3 of additional provision number 15, there are no provisions as to how to do that. There is some generic indication about tendering or e-files, but we believe that in order to make this effective, to implement it by October 2018, we believe that there is a lot yet to be done. So we wanted to that a review was made on contracting agencies, in stakeholders, and also we don't know how this transfer to e-procurement will be made. For instance, regulation of public acts, so meetings of contracting bodies. So the terms are still on paper. There are a number of issues that are not tackled. Also, we thought that it was essential. Well, a body is, there is no body receiving the competencies to regulate all that. There is no coordination between different contracting bodies. We don't know whether here we will have private operators providing services or only public operators. So we believe that all that should be revisited, should be reviewed, and should, as José Ramón said before, Moving forward in public procurement means higher transparency, closing the gap to reduce corrupt practices, also facilitating access to SMEs, and all these is translated into modernization of public administrations and all in all in the country. And as I said, we presented in our amendment this question as one of the major points. Unfortunately, the amendment was not approved. So therefore, we put forward a number of smaller amendments. However, we believe that the architecture is broad and cannot be tackled with small amendments. Still, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you about those amendments. First of all, a specific entity aims at driving public e-procurement. That will be the Cooperation Committee, and then within this Cooperation Committee, we have proposed the creation of a department for public e-procurement with the following functions: driving and implementing procurement whilst complying according to the directive. There will be a representative of the state and also for the legal service of the state, also for general intervention, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Public Administration, representative from each regions and also from local entities. We have also added a header, a title 4, where we have tried to give some answers to those big questions that we could see when we detected lack of regulation in the draft bill. First of all, the obligation is established for all the functional requirements must take place electronically. The second provisions regulated under that title is to ensure interoperability of the various e-platforms and e-procurement platform to ensure homogeneity. The third one is forecasting that e-systems and platforms, if offered by private operators, must be previously or priorly qualified before they are available in the market. And fourth, we want to see all that translated into real life in practice. So we believe that to have public e-procurement working successfully in the platform, we have to review administrative procedures and to establish a link with that. We have made a proposal, a simple proposal, but ambitious proposal. We have regulated a highly simplified procedure where for specific amounts, for instance, small amounts, so contracts of small or low value should undergo electronic procedure from beginning till end, since submission, automated submission from the digital platform up until the awarding phase should be implemented electronically. This is point 6 of Article 57. And well, that's all, and now I'm ready to hear what you have to say. Well, apologies, okay, because perhaps it's been a bit long. So we move on to our third representative, María Jesús Serrano. She is also a member of Parliament and member of Socialist political party. So I can see that Podemos and Ciudadanos share that we need to have a regulating body to drive public procurement. And I agree with you that it would have been a good idea to have developed a white book before making legislation. So You have the floor, Maria Jesus. I would like to thank the organizers of this conference for giving us the opportunity to be here and to explain what is the state of the arts at the Parliament, where we are trying to adapt the public procurement to the European directive and community law, making mandatory for member states to transpose the directive. The directives that are being transposed are from 2014 and whose deadline was April 2016. So therefore, Spain is lagging 1 year behind in the incorporation of community law to the Spanish internal legal system. Internal legal law. The company sends out the draft law transposing that directive to the Parliament in December 2016. It was sent out with a full competency and then with urgency. So that meant that the government was in a hurry to transpose community directives. However, the rest of the political parties making up the chamber of Parliament, so we understood that such a directive could not be transposed fast without giving the time to debate it, to discuss it, and to giving a voice to groups and entities that approached us and shared with us their doubts and concerns and requirements for the draft law presented by the government. And actually, the project had lots of gaps and inefficiencies. We understood that the draft law that was put forward was too lengthy, that didn't listen to the Council of State and to other entities that had mentioned before that the transposition of the community law was not made correctly. It did not include environmental clauses. It did not favor the hiring or procurement of SMEs, and it did not include either elements, public e-procurement, because we are at a time where we want to support transparency and efficiency in public administration. So we, from our political group, listened to very many groups and received 1,300 proposals for amendment. So we also presented or put forward our proposals. That amendment deadline expires March the 2nd, and we are working on paper, we are working really hard, and we are working in great detail, and this is fostering a significant debate between public procurement and how we want the law to be like, because this law regulates the framework in which public administration and all the other entities relates to each other in terms of procuring services or public works aimed at citizens. We are talking about public money, public resources. The higher the transparency, the higher the efficiency in terms of managing public resources, the less the problems we will be having. Here I'm referring to corruption activities and then activities that are disliked by citizens and are disliked by most of the politicians. So we understand that we are at the service of the citizens and we are at the service of citizenship. Therefore, as I say, So the work that we are doing is very enriching. We are seeing the different views and perspective of the political groups. And the opposing political parties shared that this project has to be transparent and efficient and has to make public administrations agile. And this is a law not only for the general administration of the state, but it's also aimed at local administration, smaller administrations, but also need to have a clear and clarifying regulation to manage all the services. I would like to link to what brings us here, which is public e-procurement. As you know, for the last 4 or 5 years, at public administrations, we've been suffering the economic crisis, and therefore public administrations now is austere in terms of managing the public resources. Public resources are less and less, and public administrations have significant difficulty to continue rendering services, and that's one of the main challenges of the Spanish public administrations and of the local administration is to support modernization. So therefore, we understand that the law for public contracts should help that modernization, because this law accounts for 20% of the GDP in Spain. Therefore, for that reason, from my political party, we believe that it is necessary to drive forward e-procurement, because this will help reduce annual spend by 54 million per year, or 541 million per year. So therefore, our group, with the support of the Spanish Federation of Municipalities, we have put forward an amendment to the general budget of the state so that public administration, and more specifically local administrations, can increase the level of debt to the levels of 2011, because at the end of the day it has been proven that local administrations are the most austere in terms of public resources and the ones that are achieving greater savings, and considering the limitations put by the central government to the local administrations. So the actual fact of buying through those platforms and shared resources, it allows us to save 2,167 million in the next 4 years. This is a very important piece of information, and we want to highlight the value of it. And we should not stop looking at countries around us, neighboring countries such as Portugal or the UK, that are seeing how e-procurement brings about significant savings and has significant impact on the account of those countries. So it is necessary to continue supporting and driving forward e-procurement, also to continue supporting city councils to join e-procurements, and we should help them to make that happen. So out of the 5,000 city councils in Spain, only 8% of them actively use e-procurements, and they are, especially, we are seeing that this is the case in city councils in places with more than 10,000 populations. So therefore, we should support e-procurement, but it is very important that public administration and the smaller administrations and a greater difficulty, that is to say city council, support e-procurement, so that the e-procurement legislation and regulations can be implemented. The draft law does not establish, does not deal with end-to-end e-procurement. So, Title 3 of that draft law about management of contract advertising, as well as additional provisions. More specifically, in Title 3, Article 340 refers to the public procurement platform aimed at transposing European directive to the Spanish legal system. From our group, we thought that that was falling short, and therefore we have put forward two draft amendments so that regions can interconnect the data with the platform for public procurement, so that all the information is centralized. We believe that that will help increase transparency, efficiency, and therefore, so that we will have more efficient public administrations. Citizens are demanding more efficient, more transparent public administration. So if that is achieved, that would also help reduce corruption cases that are really shameful, and we are fully against it. So, and this is all from me. So, well, of course, I could say much more, but time is limited. Yes, time is limited. So now I remember the time when I was a member of parliament, so there is no right of reply. So well, because you have not contradicted each other. So at my time there was a politician, very famous politician, says the only thing that you cannot do in politics is not being there, not being present. What we can do is not, not reply, but I could give the floor again to you to have 2 minutes each. So, if we give the floor to María Jesús again, well, she has just spoken, so now we give the floor to Fernando. Couple of minutes, Fernando. Well, as I said before, María Jesús said that if we make an efficient use of e-procurement, he says that local administration could save up to 500 million. There are reports of the European Commission saying that the deficiencies in e-procurement, accounting for 18% of the GDP in countries, European Commission euphemistically says about lack of tension in competition. So therefore, we may be wasting 46,000 million euros per year, even if these real figures are 1/4 of that. So we need the market to operate efficiently, to work correctly. And now I'll go back to our proposal. For markets to perform, we need to change our mindset dramatically. We should not only focus on the contracting authorities, but on the actual market of public procurement. And need, well, you said that one of your amendments is that one of the contracting authorities feed the data to the platform. And this is essential, this is crucial for research purposes. We have proposed, well, the Security Exchange Commission does this type of study, asks for data to the consultative board and makes the competition research to check whether contracting authority is inviting only one tender, or why in this geographical area this number of companies are repeating their participation in the tendering and awarding processes. So in our proposal, we proposed the setting up of a body to regulate that e-procurement. mind. So we don't mind whether the Exchange Security Commission or any other entity takes care of that. At this point in time, the project delegates this monitoring in the consultative board. Consultative board does performs very well. However, there are two characteristics that does not make it efficient. First of all, it is consultative and it is not monitoring, and neither the president nor the spokesperson are independent. And we believe this is essential. So this is our approach. I insist it is essential that contracting authorities have suitable procurement systems for e-procurement, but it is also very important that that state portal succeeds at managing, collecting data, managing data, and processing data in a consistent manner. Well, to summarize, so now I'd like to share some figures with you. I'm sure that you're aware of the 18,000 euros that we lose from irregularities related to public procurement. We believe that public e-procurement could limit or reduce that irregularities because it would be much more difficult to carry out irregular activities. So having an electronic system from end to end would also eliminate direct procurement as well as others. So we believe that that platform will be a significant advance in transparency and democracy. I also would like to add that in our amendments we put forward an independent monitoring entity that should be linked to national sovereignty. It should depend to the Parliament, because we believe that monitoring should be carried out at highest level. So, María Jesús, would you like to take the floor? Oh, yes, of course. We are members of Parliament. So, to summarize, the law to be approved by the Parliament should be consistent and adapted to the European directive, but should be targeted at efficiency and transparency. And actually, public procurement not only should see that transparency is mandatory. We are talking about public resources. From the Socialist Party, we believe that that's the way for the administration to provide services to citizens. We don't see it as a marketplace. We see it as a tool helpful for public administrations to render public services to citizens. They are made with public resources, so therefore those services should be transparent and efficient. E-procurement will be efficient and transparent, and then citizens will also have access to data, to processes, and to bureaucracy entailed in public procurement. We are 21st century. Tools are already available for us to make it happen. So I would like to say how local administration, the municipalities that we strongly support from the Socialist Party, it is necessary that local authorities adapt or join e-procurement. And also, some of the amendments that were presented by us, where we state the need to include access from SMEs and also environmental issues. We also want to have a monitoring body. So we believe that that body, that entity, should be the actual mixed commission of the account court. They have roles and functions today. So we want them to be present at the mixed commission of the accounts of the auditors tribunal, so they can efficiently manage and supervise and monitor public procurement in Spain. So thank you very much to the three of you. I was just about to show you a card with zero, with number 0, meaning that time is out. And then one of the missions of the moderators of panels is to control time. So we have to finish our roundtable here. Very interesting presentations, very interesting feedback. It would have been good to have heard from the representative of the central government, but he's not with us today. So I understand that the differences that you have, technical differences, nuances here and there. I would like to share a message with you, a message coming from the education sector, and that's where I work, and sometimes we are hired, procured by the public administration. Sometimes in other sectors we believe that public procurement laws, and especially those in Spain, are thought for public works primarily, and sometimes we come to completely absurd situations. For instance, the issue of the theme of quality. So sometimes it is difficult to tell quality, and it is important for you to take into account that sometimes there are specifications and other specifications, and that not all the public procurement is for public works. Thank you very much for being here, for your feedback, for your contribution, and especially considering that you have very tight agendas.